bones charred from an explosive display, killed by fire and reborn through its very gates. The fireworks weren't the only thing that burned that day. Set loose upon the world by the empty death herself, they sneak, lie, scare, and try to hide in plain sight. Oh, right. And did I forget to mention they're a walking, talking skeleton? Not a trick, not a treat, just a pure, terrifying reality in Pathfinder 2e. Welcome to Ctrl+Alt+Build, where Pathfinder character creations meet calculated chaos. Here's how it works. I roll randomly for the core of a character: ancestry, background, class, deity, and archetype. Then I take that chaos, theory, and themecraft, finishing it off by building a fully playable, thematically rich character you'd hopefully actually want to bring to the table. Every episode is a new concept. Sometimes it's janky, sometimes it's genius, but it's always a fun, functional build. So if you're like me and enjoy characters that feel unique but fill a strong party role, then you've found the right place. My name is Nicholas, the virtual GM, showcasing Pathfinder 2e Codex entry number 2, the Deathsmoke Deceiver. Let's build the legend. Before we move forward, a quick note. Many backgrounds, archetypes, and deities are tied to Galarian, Paizo's core setting for Pathfinder 2e. If you are a player in a game where your GM is running a homebrew setting, check with them to see if there is a comparable group that you can substitute the various options for. If they don't already have one, in most cases, I would imagine they would be thrilled at the opportunity to expand on their setting lore. Let's take a look at what we have for this build. For ancestry, we rolled up a skeleton. While skeletons are considered among the lowest types of undead, there are some living creatures that retain some of their features upon returning as a skeleton. They have increased dexterity and charisma, but come back with a flawed intelligence. They also collect bones that they use to mend themselves. For background, we rolled unremarkable. Someone with the unremarkable background has a face that is particularly unremarkable, and they know how to use this to their advantage, making it difficult for people to identify them. I'll admit, I stared at the result of this one after rolling for a while, because how exactly does a walking, talking skeleton blend into the crowd? We'll come back to that mystery later. They do get an attribute boost to either wisdom or charisma, and an additional free one of our choice. We'll get far more use out of charisma, and for the free boost, we're going to go with constitution. You become trained in deception and acting lore while gaining the lengthy diversion skill feat. Now, if you are a follower of the ABCs of character creation, you might think class would be next, but instead, we're going to determine our deity. The reason for this is that deity can be either super impactful mechanically, in the case of a cleric or a champion, or it can just be general flavor, something that can help shape and guide some of our choices or personality traits. For this build, we have the goddess Nihimbaloth, aka the Empty Death. She is a very reclusive god who hunts and eats souls in the afterlife, leaving undead in her wake. She belongs to the Outer Gods and the Great Old One pantheons, and is a great fit for our skeleton character. While the alignment system no longer exists within Pathfinder, a character connected to the Empty One is definitely going to be darker in nature, so keep that in mind. The most defining feature of a build, the class. For class, we are Kineticist. The Kineticist is all about raw elemental power. No spells, no incantations, just pure relentless force pulled straight from the natural world. Instead of casting magic in a traditional sense, Kineticists open a direct channel to the elements themselves, shaping fire, water, air, earth, or even more exotic forces like wood and metal, depending on their choices. This is a class that plays almost like an elemental warrior. You pick the elements you're attuned to and use a mix of powerful blasts, defensive stances, and utility tricks to control the battlefield. What's awesome? No spell slots, no incantations. You're pulling raw energy straight from the world around you, building it up and letting it loose in bigger and bigger ways. It makes Kineticists super consistent. You're always doing something cool, whether it's throwing giant rocks, surfing on a wave, or blasting enemies with fireballs. Plus, the way you customize your abilities means you can really lean into whatever vibe you want, from tanky frontline bruiser to high-flying elemental sniper. It's chaotic, it's powerful, and it's just pure fun. Kineticist's key attribute is Constitution, which is used for rolling their attacks, and it can also be added as an additional damage modifier if used for their 2-action elemental blasts instead of their single-action blast. They have a solid 8 plus con for their hit point pool, which as a con-based character will scale better than most classes. The Kineticist also comes in with some solid proficiencies in light armor, unarmored defense, and reflex saves. Their constitution-based construction might lead you to believe their greatest proficiency is their fortitude save, which will reach legendary status by the end of the build. Before we start looking and making our first deliberate choices for this build, we need to determine if we are using an archetype or not. For our exercise, we will roll to see if we're using an archetype, and if so, which one? For this build, we are using the Fireworks Technician, which comes online at 2nd level. Alright, so we've got the bones of the build. Let's build the legend. Starting with our ancestry, Skeleton, as mentioned before, we get boosts to Dexterity, Charisma, and 1 flexible attribute. I think the obvious choice here is to go with Constitution for our free boost, as it's the single most important attribute for our class. We would get bonus languages based on our intelligence modifier here, but with a -1, yeah, that's just not happening. We're also going to select our heritage here, which we're going with Sturdy Skeleton. This changes our base hit points from 6 to 10 and grants us the Die Hard feat, which makes us 1 stage harder to kill. For our ancestry feat, let's go with Collapse. Once every 10 minutes, when a crit would flatten us, we can literally fall apart, collapsing into a pile of bones to shrug off the worst of it. This is a big boost to survivability. As the popular saying goes, Pathfinder is not about being hit, it's about not being crit. For our background, unremarkable, we have to choose either wisdom or charisma along with one of our choice. For the free pick again, gonna go with Constitution. For the either or, the obvious choice here is charisma. The background also gives us the lengthy diversion feat, as mentioned earlier, which allows us to remain hidden if we critically succeed on creating a diversion. With the negative intelligence modifier and a 0 in wisdom, we are really going to need to focus on our ability to manipulate charisma in our favor. Finally, we're going to tack on training in deception and the acting lore skill. As a kineticist, we get to select our kinetic gate here. Kineticists fall under 2 categories, single gate or dual gate. For this build, we're going to focus on a single gate with the focus of the fire element. Fire's always a solid element, but thematically, what's a better match for a fireworks wielding undead trickster than pure explosive flame? We're also going to snag proficiency in the nature skill here. Now that we have the core identity of this build in place, let's get to our level 1 selections. At level 1, we're going to boost strength, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Constitution comes first. It's key to our health, fortitude saves, attacks, and damage. Dexterity helps our AC and reflex saves. Strength supports our melee damage. And charisma, that's how we're going to lie our way through anything and everything. After all of it is added up, this gives us a starting spot of strength +1, dex +2, con +4, intelligence -1, wisdom +0, and charisma +3. For our skill training, we are pretty limited in our options due to the requirements of our archetype and our negative intelligence. Since Firework Technician is a 2nd level archetype, we need to meet its skill requirements now. So one of our 2 skill trainings is going to go into crafting. To pair along with our deception and nature, along with the acting lore skill we were granted earlier, I'm going to pick stealth here. This character will have a lot of options when it comes to combat, and being able to select those optimally using stealth to maneuver around the battlefield will be a big help in play. Our selection of the fire gate earlier grants us 2 impulses, which we're going to take Flying Flame and Scorching Column. Flying Flame lets you shape a tiny burst of fire, maybe a burning arrow, a firebird, a crackling ember, and send it flying 30 feet in front of you. Anyone that this goes through is going to receive 1d8 fire damage. Scorching Column creates a 10-foot wide, 30-foot high pillar of searing heat. Drop it on a pack of enemies and keep moving it around the battlefield while it leaves lingering fire in its wake. And finally, we're going to take Burning Jet. This allows us to blast forward up to 40 feet like a fiery rocket, ignoring terrain, reactions, and basically all common sense. It's flashy, it's fast, it's pure chaos. Lastly, we're going to touch on starting equipment. There's a ton of wiggle room here, so pick your favorites. Personally, I'm going to go with a monk kit. There are no kineticist kits, and this one has some solid options for a non-weapon user. Going to grab padded armor, giving us a light armor option that we can rest comfortably in and doesn't impact our stealth checks. And for some flavor, let's grab a blasting stone, lesser, or 2. Kind of reminds me of throwing firecrackers on the ground as a kid. With our skeletons bones stacked, our flames lit, and a few nasty tricks up our sleeve, it's time to move into level 2, where we unlock our archetype and really start to bring the fireworks. At level 2, instead of picking a class feat, we're diving straight into our archetype and grabbing Firework Technician Dedication. This opens up a brand new toy box. We can now create firework displays using daily alchemical consumables, which we get through the alchemical crafting feat included in the dedication. Plus, we also become trained in fireworks lore, because, of course we do. We gain 3 firework options here right away, and they all follow a simple structure. You can either launch a firework within 20 feet, either just for show, or give it a special effect. For the comet display, you can fire a streak of light in a 60-foot line. The path around the area will glow with bright light. For the flower display, you ignite a sparkling flower-shaped explosion. Each enemy within 20 feet makes a fortitude save. They fail, they're dazzled. They crit fail, they're dazzled even harder. Lastly, salute gives off a deafening bang. Choose a confused or fascinated ally within 60 feet. If they're fascinated, it counts as a hostile effect towards them and snaps them out of it. If they're confused, they immediately get to make a flat check to try and shake off that confusion. We're also going to pick up a skill feat here, Charming Liar. This makes our deception even nastier. If we critically succeed at a lie, we can improve someone's attitude towards us by 1 step. In other words, you'll soon be everyone's favorite suspicious stranger. With these pieces, the character's story is really starting to take shape. I'd like to imagine that they were just a regular fireworks technician who died in a fiery accident, and then they rose as a skeleton, and they carried that same spark inside of them, literally and figuratively. If you want to lean even harder into that backstory, you could explain their low intelligence and just basic crafting skill as fear, a deep, lingering unease around fireworks ever since the accident. At level 3, we're going to level up our deception skill to expert, making us an even better liar, sneak, and general menace to polite society. We also grab the untrained improvisation general feat. Because our intelligence is sitting at a lovely -1, we're going to struggle a bit with overall skill coverage, but this feat helps fix that. It lets us treat untrained skills as if we had a proficiency bonus equal to our level -2. And it's not perfect, but it's a huge quality of life boost and practically mandatory for this particular build's mechanical balance. Our kinetic powers also get stronger here. We improve our will saves to expert, and we gain the extract element impulse. This is a flashy trick. Pick a creature within 30 feet that has an elemental trait matching ours, in this case fire. You blast them with 2d4 untyped damage, which is fairly rare and cool all on its own. But if they fail, or critically fail, the save, you gain extra effects. You can strip them of their elemental immunities, slap a +1 penalty to their AC and saves against your impulses, and keep them affected either until 5 minutes pass or your aura ends, whichever happens first. This is the first real step towards dominating fire itself, and a glimpse of just how brutal this skeleton can become when the fireworks start flying. At 4th level, we're grabbing the Blazing Wave class feat. This gives us a brand new fire impulse, a 30-foot cone of cascading flames that scorches everyone in its path. Each creature caught in the blaze takes 46 fire damage on a failed save, and if they critically fail, they're also knocked prone. A great combo tool for chaos and control. Since we're continuing our streak as a social saboteur and a menace to order, we're also going to pick up the quick disguise skill feat. This reduces the amount of time it takes to throw together a disguise to just 1 minute, and once we hit legendary in deception, that drops to a single action. Fast lies and faster getaways. Level 5 is our first major power spike, and it starts with our 4 free attribute boosts. We're increasing strength, dexterity, and charisma by 1, and giving a partial boost to constitution, the cornerstone of our kineticist kit. Our body may be bones, but we are one solid skeleton. We also get another ancestry feat, and while there are several good options, we're going to go with past life. This grants us a free skill increase, which we're going to put into acrobatics, and an extra lore skill related to our past. For a safe thematic pick, let's go with undead lore, it fits our build, and it might give us some mechanical advantages in the right campaign. Now, since lying doesn't always do the trick, we're now going to pick up training and intimidation, giving us a couple more tools in social situations, especially when persuasion turns to pressure. This level also gives us our next gate threshold. Since we're sticking with a single gate fire build, we're taking expand the portal and selecting the critical blast junction. This adds persistent 1d6 fire damage to any creature we critically hit with the elemental blast, a perfect way to keep our enemies burning long after our turn is done. Lastly, we gain yet another impulse feat here, and we're going to grab Thermal Nimbus. This upgrades our kinetic aura. We can choose fire or cold, obviously fire here, and we and all allies inside the aura gain resistance equal to our level to fire. Any creature who moves into or starts their turn in the aura takes damage equal to half our level of fire. This turns our aura into a burning danger zone, one that we can safely walk in and out of, but our enemies absolutely cannot. All right, let's stop, drop, and roll where we're at after 5 levels of skeleton-fueled fire starting. We've got an undead pyrokinetic on our hands, a literal firework technician who exploded so hard they came back with a fire gate wired directly to their soul. They're sturdy, they collapse on command when things get a little too spicy, and they're already launching flame birds and scorching pillars into the sky like it's a summer festival gone horribly wrong. On the social side, we're a smooth-talking pile of bones. Charming liar and expert deceptions mean we can lie straight through our non-existent teeth, while quick disguise gives us change identities like it's a party trick. Need a distraction? We've got fireworks for that. Need to snap your bard out of confusion? Fireworks. Want to dazzle the enemy with literal flowers made of fire? Fireworks. Combat-wise, we have a toolkit of fire impulses that hit hard and cover ground, from flying flames to 30-foot cones to a literal burning aura that punishes anyone who dare stands near us. And now, with Critical Blast, we're adding persistent fire damage on crits. Stick around too long, and you're gonna get roasted. We've patched up our skill gap a bit with untrained improvisation, grabbed some undead-themed lore with past life, and started investing in intimidation just in case lying stops working and we need to start threatening people. So yeah, we're a walking celebration hazard with a bone to pick, a flair for drama, and absolutely zero chill. And trust me, it only gets hotter from here. At level 6, we're getting more slippery, more explosive, and just a little more terrifying. We grab Volcanic Escape as our class feat, a fiery little reaction that lets us slip away from a foe who damages us while inside our aura. Not only do we bail, but we leave behind an angry little lava explosion, dealing 1d6 fire damage. It's a stylish exit and a spiteful parting gift. Exactly our vibe. For our skill feat, we're finally gonna put those bone-chilling sockets to work with intimidating glare. No more need for witty insults or clever threats. We just stare someone down and they get the message. They don't even need to hear us to know we mean business. Now, level 7 is all about sharpening our strengths. We're going to boost Deception to Master, opening the door to one of the best thematic general feats for this build, Slippery Secrets. This lets us use Deception in place of will saves when people try to read our minds or magically extract the truth. And if it succeeds, they get absolutely nothing. Turns out, lying works even when it's psychic. Class-wise, we get a solid bump with kinetic durability and kinetic expertise, which crank our fortitude saves up to master and upgrades our class DC to expert. No bells or whistles here, just clean, reliable scaling to keep our firepower hot and our bones unbroken. At 8th level, our dearly departed fireworks tech adds another dangerous aerial trick to their explosive arsenal with the Jumping Jenny display feat. This new firework targets a flying enemy within 60 feet and tries to blast them out of the sky. If they fail a series of acrobatics checks, down they go. And, while the fall is harmless, it still serves as a dazzling, humiliating crowd pleaser. Meanwhile, on the social battlefield, we grab Doublespeak as our skill feat. Now, we can talk encoded speech, saying one thing to an enemy, while our allies hear a completely different message. As long as they've spent at least a week with us, they're in on the trick. It's subtle, it's sneaky, it's just on brand. Level 9 brings a suite of strong upgrades, both sneaky and sturdy. We're going to bump our stealth to expert because while lying is fun, lying from the shadows is even better. Next, we're going to grab skeletal resistance as our ancestry feat, granting resistance 2 to cold, electricity, fire, piercing, and slashing damage. That's 5 damage types passively reduced every time we get hit. This will scale with us too, bumping up to 3 resistance at level 13 and 4 at level 17. These brittle bones are a lot tougher than they look. We're also going to expand our fire gate again, choosing the aura junction. This causes enemies within our aura to gain weakness to our fire impulses equal to half our level. This means that the longer they stay close, the hotter it gets, literally. To finish off this level, we're going to take the impulse feat Kindle Inner Flames. This one turns our aura into a buffing zone. Allies, and us, gain glowing embers that boost reflex saves and acrobatic checks by +1, and once per round, they get a free step. If they make a strike after a move action while they're glowing with our embers, they deal +2 fire damage until their next turn. And don't worry, at level 12, this is going to get a huge upgrade. At 10th level, it's time for another round of attribute boosts. We're adding +1 to strength, dexterity, and constitution, making us faster, sturdier, and more capable in a pinch, plus a partial bump to charisma, just to keep the charm simmering. For our class feat, we're going to grab Chain Infusion, which kicks our offense into overdrive. Now, whenever we land a hit with Elemental Blast, melee or ranged, we can immediately make a ranged blast against a different creature within range. And if this one hits, do it again, and again, and again. It ends when we miss and we can't hit the same target twice in one turn, but if the dice are feeling generous, we suddenly set the whole battlefield on fire, one lucky roll at a time. Then for our general feat, we're going to double down on that slippery charisma with discreet inquiry. When we're asking questions around town, we can now obscure what we're really after by blending it in with unrelated chatter without making it harder to succeed. The fire starter has learned the art of casual gossip. At 11th level, the sneaky skeleton steps it up. We raise our stealth to master proficiency, ensuring we're as good at vanishing as we are at lying. We also boost our invest limit to 12 magical items because, carrying around just 10 magical trinkets is for the living. The undead need more options. Our Kineticist Foundation also gets a triple power up here. Kinetic Quickness improves our reflex saves to master, helping us dodge trouble with molten speed. Reflow Elements grants us some flexibility. We can swap out one of our fire impulses for another fire impulse when we refocus. This build sticks to a solid plan, but this does give you room to pivot based on the encounter or the party's needs. And Weapon Expertise takes our simple weapons and unarmed attacks to expert proficiency, giving us more oomph across the board. All right. Let's take another breather and see where we're at after 11 levels of undead combustion and crafty deception. We have got ourselves a skeleton kineticist with a flair for fire and fireworks, equal parts battlefield menace and behind-the-scenes manipulator. Our impulses are burning hotter than ever, with blazing wave, volcanic escape, and now chain infusion, letting us spread heat across the map like a pyromaniac domino effect. And with thermal nimbus and Kindle Inner Flames, we're boosting our team while cooking the opposition inside of our aura. We've layered on fortitude, reflex, and class DC upgrades, meaning our bones are sturdier, faster, and more dangerous to mess with. We've even got a firework that knocks flyers out of the sky, which, for a guy who technically doesn't have any lungs, is hilariously aggressive. But it's not all flash and fire. We've got deception at master, stealth at master, and a growing toolkit of trickery. Whether we're intimidating enemies with a dead stare, whispering coded lies with doublespeak, or slyly gathering information through discreet inquiry, we've become a social saboteur with a skeletal grin and a heart full of smoke. Oh, and we have resistance to 5 damage types now, because being dead shouldn't mean being fragile. If this is the end of your experience with this build, whether your campaign wraps up here or your character's story reaches a natural close, what you've had is a bold, subversive force on the battlefield. You've played a stylish undead with a foot in 2 worlds, a kineticist who commands elemental chaos, and a deceptive agent who speaks in riddles, changes faces, and keeps enemies guessing. You used fire not just as a weapon, but as a persona. Explosive, unpredictable, and impossible impossible to ignore. You've danced across the battlefield with explosions, lies, and heat waves. Always a step ahead, never quite where they thought you'd be. And if your enemies underestimated the dead guy in the corner, that just made their burning downfall all the sweeter. Are you ready to bring the heat even higher? Let's see what happens when this fire doesn't die out and go on to level 12. We explode, literally, into level 12 with Goblin Jubilee, our newest fireworks display. This one's a celebration of chaos. In a 20-foot burst, up to 120 feet away, all creatures are rocked with 3d6 fire and 3d6 sonic damage, with a fortitude save to hold on. Crit fail, they're blinded for a round, dazzled, and deafened for a full minute, and take double damage. Now that's a party they'll never forget. They even survive it. We also double down on our sneak factor with foil senses, which makes it so we're always considered to be taking precautions against special senses. No blind sight, tremor sense, or life sense is gonna out us. Now, we are professionally elusive. At 13th level, our bone-rattling presence gets more intense. We bump intimidation to expert, making our dead-eyed glares and wordless threats all the more terrifying. But just in case things get dicey, we grab the Play Dead Ancestry feat, because what better way to get out of danger than to just collapse like a pile of bones and be a regular skeleton? It's creepy, it's thematic, and it's hilariously effective. We also step up our physical prowess with light armor expertise, giving us expert proficiency in light and unarmored defense, and weapon specialization kicks in for a nice bonus damage with our kineticist weapons and unarmed strikes. For the final spark in this level, we reach even deeper into the fire gate by expanding the portal once more, this time picking up the elemental resistance junction. While our aura is active, we gain resistance equal to our level in both cold and fire damage, which turns into full-on immunity at level 17. We are quite literally too hot to handle. Top it all off, we gain the Impulse Architect of Flame, which lets us create a wall of fire within 120 feet that is up to 10 feet long and 60 feet high. Now, at 14th level, we're entering the age of effortless pyromania. With the class feat Effortless Impulse, we can now sustain one of our impulses for a free action once per round. This means more consistent auras, longer lasting battlefield effects, and way less action economy stress, because let's face it, we've got better things to do than babysit a flame wall. And speaking of slick moves, Swift Sneak makes us a literal blur in the shadows. We can now sneak at full speed, not just on foot, but even while climbing, swimming, flying, or burrowing. Our skeletons out here Metal Gear Soliding across terrain like a Sunday stroll. All right, big milestone here. We hit our penultimate set of attribute boosts, and we're going with +1 in strength and charisma with partial boosts in dexterity and constitution. This keeps us flexible, tough, and even more dazzlingly dramatic. Deception, we've ascended. We're now legendary in deception and unlock reveal machinations, which lets us convince someone that we've been a part of their life the whole time. Imagine walking up to someone and being like, "What do you mean you don't know me? I was your mentor. I raised you." And they just buy it. On a success, they're frightened 2. On a critical success, they're frightened 3. And we even get to use this as a recall knowledge check. It's once per day per target, but trust me, once is usually enough. And behind the scenes, we're continuing to build heat with greater kinetic durability and kinetic mastery, raising our fortitude saves to legendary and class DC to master. We're not just a flashy liar with fireworks, we're a brick wall made of flames and falsehoods. Okay, let's hit pause and take stock of where this walking tinderbox of a skeleton is standing after 15 levels. We've become a full-blown menace on and off the battlefield. Mechanically, we're weaving between lies, flames, and fireworks like a pyromaniac stage magician. Our aura burns, our impulses erupt, and now, with Effortless Impulse, they're sticking around even longer than ever before. No action tax required. Outside of combat, we're a social saboteur. We're legendary in deception. We're lying with such confidence people question their own realities, and our swift sneak means we can vanish like smoke through the shadows. Whether you're slipping into a noble's vault, throwing a goblin block party, or convincing someone you've been their long lost uncle since childhood, we've got the tools. Fireworks wise, we're packing chaos, control, and a surprising amount of status condition utility. These displays aren't just for show, they're blinding, they're deafening, they're knocking flyers out of the sky, and confusing the battlefield in glorious style. Are you now ready to send the skeleton hurtling towards their explosive endgame? Let's roll into the final levels of this build. At 16th level, we set off our final fireworks with Banshee Cry display, an interruptive screech that messes with spellcasters and item users around us. If they're within 30 feet and they're trying something fancy, they're risking an extra action or a full disruption if they critically fail. It's our way of saying, no, you stop. Meanwhile, terrifying resistance adds just a bit more bite to our intimidation game, rewarding our scare tactics with a +1 bonus to saves if we've already shaken a foe in the past 24 hours. It's small, but it is flavorful, like the lingering fear we leave behind. Then, at level 17, this is where things start to get wild. We expand the portal one last time to grab the skill junction, but since we've already snagged Intimidating Glare earlier in the build, we're going to reroute that benefit into training athletics instead. While in our aura, we now get a +3 bonus to athletics checks. That's shove, trip, grapple, and climbing, all running hotter than ever. The real sizzle here is walk through the conflagration, a tactical teleport that lets us zip through open flames or fire burned enemies within 120 feet, leaving an explosion of fire in our wake. We're literally stepping through the fire now. Double reflow gives us even more flexibility by allowing us to swap out 2 impulse feats instead of 1, though again, we're keeping our build locked in for now. This is an amazing tool if your campaign's needs ever evolve. And just when you thought we couldn't get weirder, we unlock Bone Swarm. We become a huge tornado of bones, dealing 10d6 bludgeoning damage to all creatures in our space, ignoring our own allies. This isn't just utility or fluff, it's a full-on bone storm carnage. Oh, did I mention we're now legendary in stealth? That means we're a fiery, lying skeleton who can also disappear from sight like a whisper on the wind. All right, here it is, the final stretch. And if you've made it this far, congratulations, because our little skeleton fire starter has evolved into something truly unrecognizable from where we began. Let's finish this strong. At level 18, we basically disappear. Legendary Sneak turns us into a ghost. No cover, no concealment, no problem. We're just always hiding, always unseen, and unless we choose to be noticed, at this point, even our own party might forget that we're standing right beside them. And we grab All Shall End in Flames, which is as dramatic as it sounds. We unleash a 30-foot sphere of pure destruction, 13d6 fire damage on a save, and if anyone drops to 0 because of this, they don't get to get back up. They're just gone, burned to ash. And if we happen to fall in this same fire, we don't have to stay down. We get to come back to life next turn like a damn phoenix, reborn in flame with HP equal to twice our level. It's horrifyingly metal. Then comes level 19, where our intimidation rises to master and we pick up Too Angry to Die, a reactive taunt we can throw out whenever we stand up after getting knocked out. It's petty and it's hilarious, and it fits this build like a glove. Also, we hit Final Gate, letting us ignite our aura as a free action. No prep, no setup, just turn it on and go. Add Kinetic Legend for legendary class DC and Light Armor Mastery to toughen up our defenses, and we're now mechanically and thematically unstoppable. And then, level 20, the finish line. We take our final attribute boost, +1 to Dex, Con, Intelligence, and Wisdom, and, surprisingly, pick up Thievery. Why? Well, because after 19 levels of hiding in plain sight, lying to everyone's faces, and sneaking through battlefields covered in fire, we finally decided, you know what? Maybe stealing isn't so bad. We round out our Fear Toolkit with Terrified Retreat, which sends enemies literally running away from us if we critically succeed on a Demoralize. It's the cherry on top of our Scare Tactics Sunday. And finally, we reach our Kinetic Pinnacle. We've become permanently quickened with that extra action specifically for channeling elements, throwing out a one-action blast, or taking a stance. We just do more every turn than anyone else. The flame flame never stops. The lies never stop. The stealth untraceable. And that's a wrap on our bone-rattling, ember-hurling, walking lie of a kineticist. We started as a spark-happy skeleton with a few tricks up our bony sleeves, and by level 20, we've become a living arsenal of fire, fear, and finesse. This build blended the Gate of Fire Kineticist with a high deception, high stealth chassis, resulting in a character who could lie to your face, vanish in plain sight, and then explode in a blaze of fireworks that disrupts spells, forces movement, and leaves foes literally running scared. With nearly every tier of play, we have layered on more control, more misdirection, and more firepower, both literal and thematically. We have leaned hard into fire-themed control with auras that weaken and impulses that blind, deafen, knock down, or scatter enemies. Legendary stealth and deception, letting us operate unseen and sow confusion everywhere we went. Explosive battlefield manipulation, disrupting actions, forcing saves, and chaining blasts to multiple targets. Creepy skeleton tricks like playing dead, bone tornadoing enemies, or resurrecting from ash after self-destruction. This is the end of an experience with this build. You've walked the path of a trickster pyromancer, a scheming specter who never fought fair and never had to. You've disrupted spells, scattered enemies with noise and flame, manipulated minds with legendary lies, and literally walked through fire without blinking. You brought chaos, confusion, and combustion to every encounter, and you looked good doing it. And if you're taking this build all the way to 20, you're ending as a stealthy god of fire, quickened every round, immune to your own blazes, disrupting spellcasters with a shriek, and watching enemies flee in fear from your very presence. You're not just a skeleton, you're a myth in motion. The ghost stories spellcasters tell each other when they fumble their components and hear a spark in the dark. In the end, we didn't just build a character, we built a legend. Thanks for sticking around with the build all the way to the top. If you're enjoying these offbeat but high-functioning character concepts, give the video a like, subscribe for more, and drop a comment about your favorite firework moment or lie so bold it might just work. This is Nicholas, the virtual GM. If you want to check out a previous build, look right over there.